Dirk Moses, in public discourse about ongoing mass atrocities, there seems to be a hierarchy where genocide is referred to as the crime above all crimes. Now, is it such a hierarchy in international law?
Genocide is one among a number of international crimes in international law. There's also crimes against humanity, war crimes, and ethnic cleansing. These are included in the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Now, in that statute, there is no hierarchy among them. But in practice, in international public opinion, genocide is considered the crime of crimes, the worst crime, the absolute crime. So victim groups, or those that represent them, will tend to say genocide is occurring in order to gain public opinion support or mobilize political will for intervention. I think that's a problem because it's very often difficult to prove genocide, certainly in a court, which happens far too late, that happens years later. And it's also difficult often to convince publics that genocide is taking place, because although many people are dying or being killed, these occur usually in contexts of armed conflict, for example, a civil war. And skeptics will say, well, this is tragic, this is terrible, but it doesn't look like the Holocaust. In other words, to make things look like genocide, an analogy needs to take place with the Holocaust. And because the Holocaust is regarded by many people as unprecedented and even unique, that analogy is all the more difficult.
Would you use the term genocide about the atrocities that are happening in the Gaza-Israeli conflict?
We don't know how the International Court of Justice is going to rule on South Africa's case against Israel about the Genocide Convention. That is years in the future. What we can see now is that Israel is waging what I think looks like a genocidal campaign in the Gaza Strip, with a version of it also in the West Bank. You have the entire destruction of the built environment, of agriculture, of everything which makes human life possible, with the intention to deport. That pattern of destruction, some mass killing, with the intention to deport, we've seen in other cases, in Bosnia, of course in the Armenian genocide. And in some of those cases, the international courts have said genocide has taken place. So I see here a pattern that recurs historically. It's not unique. The particular circumstances are distinct, as they are in every case. But the pattern of destruction combined with the intent to displace and then occupy the territory and settle it with your own people is a common one in world history. And we could call it genocidal warfare. It's the intention to destroy one society and replace it with another.
Besides genocide, what other concepts based in international law and the Roma statutes have been applied by legal bodies in the Gaza conflict?
So Martin Shaw, the genocide scholar, thinks and categorizes that the Hamas incursion into southern Israel was genocidal. There are scholars who disagree and say this was an act of terrorism. I mean, it was clearly an act of terrorism and violated international law, and that's why there were ICC warrants for 3 Hamas leaders who have since been killed for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Clearly, outrages took place against Israeli and other civilians on the 7th of October, and it's quite right that the International Criminal Court seeks to prosecute those responsible. So at the same time, the International Criminal Court has issued warrants for the arrest of Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant for crimes against humanity and war crimes, above all for the crime of siege and starvation, or for that policy. I think it's important that international law be respected and that those warrants be respected by countries which support the International Criminal Court. Unfortunately, not all states of the United Nations have done so. There needs to be consistency on this matter, and what we're seeing in this conflict is that multiple international crimes have been alleged, and people can see that they've been committed, and that international justice should be done and be seen to be done.